We are going to continue the theme of disruption. These next couple of sessions, Disrupted by Lunch, are really going to be about gamification, a concept that's really been talked about over the last number of months. We've brought a number of companies up to present. The first group will be PlayGen, based in London. They've been around for about 10 years. Cam and James will walk through the type of work they do with organizations that are facing change and want to change, like National Health, the Ministry of Defense, Aviva, the insurance company. You're going to see in your bag a pack of playing cards. That's one thing I want to make you aware of. And second, we're going to do a session after lunch that will talk about a lot of the tricks of the trade that Cam and James are going to talk about in a very high-level way. If you're interested in a workshop with Cam and James tomorrow, there's a bowl at the back you can put your contact details into, and you can learn more about that later. Cam, James?
Thank you very much, Matt. Hello. Okay, great. Hello. Hi. Hi, how are you doing? Are you all loosened and ready to take in some new knowledge? Right, okay, some. Okay, well, we'll see. Over the next 45 minutes, I'm hoping to transform those of you who are open to be transformed into folks who understand intimately how games are designed, how you engage in creating games, how you develop play, and we want to make you play designers within 45 minutes. It's a bit of a long stretch for some, and actually just before we do get started, could I just have a show of hands, anyone who's made games in the last 10 years? And anyone who's been a game designer in that role? Okay. Can I ask the game designers that if you spot we're talking bullshit, just don't show us up yet. But seriously, folks, the rest of you, I hope, will find this interesting. I hope that we can actually open up this whole world of game design, what it's about, show you what goes on underneath it, and the thinking, and the way we and others who do well in this space think about these things. And yes, we have got a game in your bags. If you have a look, there's a pack of cards. I'm sorry it's traditional, but this is physical. And this is a game. We'll go through it. I'll ask you to find this pack in your bag in a few minutes, and we'll go through it. So I'm not really going to talk about us, because this isn't about us. This is about you. And this is about hopefully transforming your understanding of what games are about. But just to say a couple of things about what we do, PlayGen, our bag is changing behavior through play, and that's what we focus on. And as Matt mentioned, some of our clients includes the MOD, NHS, with games around reducing teenage pregnancy, Department of Defense, with games around reducing alcohol abuse in forces, or with folks like Nesta, transforming young people's aspirations of what they can do in their lives, or with folks like the Western Midland Police, how to reduce violent extremism, which, we'll see how that pans out. But just a little bit about us, and that's it. If I could start with this then. These are the packs. You'll see them. We'll open them in a minute. Right, okay, so are we all ready? I'm a bit nervous, but I'm sure you'll all put me at my ease. You're all doomed. It's all going to shit.
Do the machines take over?
So we know this. All these mobile devices we've talked about, they're going to take over our lives. They'll tell us where we should be, what we should be doing. Or there'll be nuclear war. But,
Look, on the bright side, those things wouldn't happen for a couple of years, hopefully.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of years. Let's play, right? So time is short. Let's have some fun. Let's make some play happen. So here is the game tricks. Not quite the main tricks, but folks, this is the game tricks. I'm Cam.
I'm James.
And which one do you take? Thank you, Graham, for that introduction. Life is full of choices. And I'm going to propose something even more disruptive, which is let's take both pills. Because we need to stay here and do our work and be boring, but we need to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. So it's a mix-up.
So we're all gaming right now, if anyone's realised. There's some sort of gaming layer that we're all playing.
Some of it's explicit.
Exploring, so everyone goes on holiday, finding new places, curious to see different things and explore different places.
Some of it's about things where we live. You know, did you gazump them? Did you manage to beat them down? What was the price that you bought? Did you manage to get in at the right time? All of that.
We're playing the relationship game. I'm failing.
You know, how long has it been? How many personal... Well, I think the clothes might have something to do with it. How many notches have you got on your bedpost? You know, there's always counters out there.
And we're playing the socialising game. As much as everyone collects friends on Facebook, there's just commodities for your social empire and your status among everyone else.
So James has got 6 friends, I've got 5. He's winning right now.
It's not true.
Okay, you got 7. And let's not forget, the most important game of all. Folks, your bank balance and your net worth is your score. And, you know, he who dies with the highest score, well, that was a bit of failure. You should have spent it. But, you know, in all honesty, that is a game. And whether you see it that way or not, it's our score. And, you know, I've got $600 in the bank. So, you know. We're wearing these because this is rocket science. It's really complicated. And, you know, these are some of the people that we work with. They're called scientists. And they're rocket scientists. And, you know, there's always 3 reasons, and only 3 reasons for anything. And when it comes to games and play, the 3 reasons are they're compelling.
Yep, they're rewarding.
And they're engaging to the player. And that's really important to understand because it's taken a lot of effort to get there and to understand what these things mean. Now, that was a bit of a bullshit, but this is the real story and why we're actually here. So we scoured all the talk, and we think some of these could stand up to scrutiny. Some of them might be pies in the sky, but Los Angeles Times reckons 100 million today, 2.8 billion in 2016. This is gamification. Bunch more, we have Rajat Paharia today, this afternoon, on a panel saying it'll grow 150%. Gartner, I don't know if you've come across this or not, reckons that 50% of all businesses in the US will gamify within the next few years. Now, there's 11 million businesses in the US, so I don't quite see that, but maybe they seem to know something. And as we can see, spend on social media, marketing, gamification, it's only going to go up. So all eyes on gamification, it seems. But today, and for the purpose of this session, we're going to turn it over to you. We're going to turn you into game designers. We're going to turn you into folk who understand gamification. Next time someone talks about gamification, you'll be able to tell them exactly how it works. And if somebody asks you, how do I gamify paying my taxes, you can tell them within a few minutes exactly how they're going to do it and why it's going to work. So, half an hour, here we go. What I'd like right now, if possible, what we'd both like, is some potential topics from you guys that we could pick to gamify. Feel free to put your hand up, or if you want to shout them out. We're only going to choose one, so either you're the first person who says it or the last person. You got someone there? Healthcare. Which part of healthcare? All of it. Gamify the whole of healthcare.
About
losing weight. That's a good one.
rearing sheep.
Rearing sheep.
Smallpox.
Networking at a conference.
Organising a funeral.
Organising a funeral. That's a good one.
Civil unrest.
Civil unrest gamified. Having a baby. I thought that was already a game. I'm losing. Music education. Okay. All right. We've got some really good suggestions there. Some of them have already been gamified. If you go onto the various marketplaces and app stores and you put in making a baby, there are apps that will tell you when your lady or you are ovulating and when it's the right time or how long it's going to be or where the date of birth is and all of that kind of stuff. With health, with losing weight, you know, Weight Watchers have done a brilliant job of gamifying losing weight. Rearing sheep, I like that one. I also like organising funerals, but it's a little bit somber for the funeral family. Perhaps if you're a funeral director, you could actually gamify it really successfully and have fun with it. Civil unrest is not necessarily one that we could do without a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, but I'm torn between. I'm really torn between civil unrest and making a baby. Actually, we'll put this to a democratic vote. All those in favour of civil unrest? Those in favour of having a baby, making a baby? Oh my God, it's like neck and neck, right? We're going to go with civil unrest because not only is it topical, but, you know, it's probably a little bit risque. I'm already sweating thinking, what on earth have we just done? But, you know, it's going to be a good one. If at this point I could ask you to go into your bags, and you will find in your bag a box, and in that box are 100 million game ideas. It's amazing how tiny they are, but they're all in there. And if you want to open them up, have a look. Do not shuffle the cards. That's well, you could shuffle the cards. It's a different kind of game. But don't shuffle the cards, but have the cards at the ready, and we're going to take you through some of these with a bit of civil unrest as the concept that holds it all together. You ready, James?
Ready.
Right. Is there rules? Okay, everything has rules. Every game must have rules. Otherwise golf wouldn't make any sense, right? You'd just pick it all, put it in the hole. No, we need rules, and the rules in this game are you have to go through this process. The very first thing you do is you define what motivates the player. Why? Why? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why? That's what we need to answer. We'll pick two of those cards. We're going to look through them. We're going to pick two. Then, so what? So you have to define how you win or how you lose, and this is something that some of gamification hasn't quite get its head around. That the reason we play games is because we sometimes can lose, we sometimes can win. Then how? These are game mechanisms, and we have a whole bunch of them. Minimum 2, maximum 5 or 6, no more. And making it social, let's face it, is 2011. If I'm not interacting with other people, I am playing with myself. And we'll get hairy palms. But let's move on to motivators. So this is the main reasons to play the game. Now, who's got the biggest pumpkin? Who smashed up the most number of windows? Okay, sorry. It's going to continue to go back to civil unrest, so just to contextualize some of that. Power?
Yeah. So we look at power in the game as a feeling for someone. So when I've got power, I feel like I've got control, I've got authority.
Yeah. So in the context of civil unrest, who holds the power? And that could be a collective. It could be on either side of the fence. And I'm not going to say which group. But identity is equally important. This is a good motivator for any game, for any contextualized game. We need identity. We need to tell people who we are and why we're doing it.
Curiosity. It's intrinsic motivation for people. It's like, what's around the corner? What are we exploring? It's like human behavior. Obviously, curiosity killed the cat. We are also the same thing.
Yeah. Come on, you know you want to call that number, right? Yeah? There's a few people who have. So what is this thing? There's that little intrigue. It's what's around the corner. It's the little tab that a few marketeers discovered. Oh, maybe I can pull this website back and, oh, it's just an advert. But that's curiosity, folks. And ownership is about owning things. And I have lots of things, and I want to show you that I have lots of things. And it works very well in games, it works very well in gamification. It's an underlying human desire to own things. We are inbuilt to have things, I think. Certainly some crows and some rats do that too.
And mastery is the skill that motivate to grow the potential of the player. So when you start off in a game, you start unskilled in the game, and as you progress, you master that skill, you master the game.
So the best rioter, master rioter.
Gets all the TVs.
Okay, and winning. This is something that it seems rather obvious. We all want to win. We all want to be first. And, well, actually, 98% of us, 2% of us prefer to lose, but that's very, very strange, I think. And we don't want to end up as that guy, right? So another instinctive motivator to win, and this could be for the police. They could win rather than kind of be pushed back.
And free. Everyone likes things being free.
We might actually use this motivator in our riot scene. This is called looting in this particular game. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's freebies, incentives to keep playing, the incentives for loyalty.
And I want it now. Smash, grab. Ha-ha, I didn't have to work for that. Instant gratification. Well, folks, it works, and we are programming ourselves into this mindset that loves instant gratification, that wants to be, just get the result. I don't care about the hard work, give me the cake.
And meaning. Everything's got to have meaning, especially in games. If there's no meaning, it's not worth anything. Like Call of Duty, there's one meaning: save the world from terrorism. And
yeah, I'm not quite sure what the meaning of the rioters are for them. They may have their own meaning. It seems to be rather dispersed. But there is meaning in everybody else's effort that is going on. All the people who are cleaning up, all the people who are trying. There is meaning there. Now, that wasn't all the motivators, and you've got the packets in your hand, so you could have another look at them, have a look at the blue cards, just for a few seconds, just go through them. We're going to have to pick 2 cards, and it's hard when you've got a small choice, but we're going to have to pick 2 cards that we're going to use to design our game with, because we can't use them all. Doesn't mean the other ones won't actually come into play, but we need 2. And I'm going to propose 2 cards. It's it seems a bit contrived. Well, but these are instant gratification and free. The reason you are playing this game, called Smash Up, is because you want to get free stuff, and you want to get it right now. So those are the key motivators. So I'm going to put those to one side as I get to the next stage of why. What is the point? So those are my motivations, but how do I get to win? We all like to win, and in everything that we do, apart from that 2%. I don't know if any of that 2% in this room.
So you have goals and objectives, so basically specific outcomes, tasks that the player has to complete. And so Splinter Cell is find Sarah's killer.
Yeah, and the goal could be, well, burn down Sony's warehouse, or clean up and make sure they don't do it again. Let's be bipartisan here. I've taken the wrong side, really, of this argument.
We twist it to maybe
The positive angle.
positive side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the goals could be, how can we stop this from happening again? The objective could be, how can we come together as a group and show some solidarity? Checkpoints are along the way. Checkpoints are really great mechanisms. These are gaming mechanisms, in case these are the red cards. You have many more of them that we'll talk than we've got time to talk about. But these are some of the basic core game mechanisms that game designers and playmakers use, and I hope that you'll use. And checkpoint is basically a reference. You have achieved X amount. You have got to this position. Racing cars have them, but it's anywhere. It's how far you got in your filling up your profile on LinkedIn to well, anything else that would have some set points of how far you're along of something.
And the elimination, quite simple, is to wipe out the opposition or wipe out another player's entity.
Okay, so this is a winning thing, and I hope that your brains are probably making the connections now, and I don't need to. Elimination is something that gamification, in the marketing sense, hasn't embraced yet, but it's a brilliant one, and it's, as far as games go, and it's one that we're willing to put a lot of time and effort in order to avoid or achieve. So racing, get there quicker, get there faster, do it faster than other people, do it better than other people, amass more things. It's not just racing around, it's anything where there's some value and you're competing with others.
And territory control, basically a land grab for players to occupy different territories.
Yep, so which victory conditions will we use? So in this case, I think just looking through the orange cards now, and these are the victory conditions, there are a few that we didn't put there, but I'm going to propose that we just have one, and that's territory control. He who controls the most amount of territory in his given time wins. I'm wondering whether we should have done this with making a baby now. And I wonder if we can switch halfway through, but I don't think either instant gratification or free plays that well into having a baby. It's a long, drawn-out, expensive process. So, yeah. But let's move on to some game mechanisms, and let's have a look at how games are played and how the various components work together. Onto points, and really this is the cornerstone of most gamification, that and badges, and it's about amassing points. But folks, just to heed a word of warning, points without a real point, like some way of being redeemed, are pointless. And anything that's pointless, why are you doing it? Because it might be interesting at the first few seconds, but you can bet that once you get into it and you see that you're amassing points for no reason, you're not going to be engaged. So make sure there's a point to your points.
Levels are basically sections of the game where the player can advance through. So usually levels result in mastery of the game.
Mm-hmm. That's how we normally see levels.
We do, yeah.
It could be which level you are in World of Warcraft. It could be how far you've got, and say something like LinkedIn or another one of the gamified platforms. And this rewards is something that we see a lot. Badgification, Badgeville, and all of that kind of stuff. It's a show that I have achieved something. This harks back to identity, to showing who I am. And this is a mechanism that we can use to help people, help our players know that they've achieved something. So rewards and achievements go hand in hand.
And turns. Players take turns. So if there's 4 players, I take a turn, I do my actions, then the next player takes a turn.
Yep, just like chess. Turns have an amazing transformative effect in that if I take a turn, then I know it's your turn, and that means you have to do something. And that very simple turn-taking mechanism can really transform a game from one thing to something else. In this instance, in the context of taking turns, well, again, I shall leave it to you to make some links there, but I'll talk about time, which is something we're always running against. I can see we've got even less time now. It's always running out. It's nearly time. It's amazing little tool. I saw a recent website that on its sign-up said the fastest person to sign up today did it in 18 seconds. Can you beat that score? And, you know, just a very simple thing. It's just measuring how long it took you to sign up, but it actually got me to try and sign up quicker rather than going, I'm not interested in signing up. I actually thought, I want to beat that score. And it kind of depends on what kind of a person you are, how competitive you are.
We look at difficulty, so repeating challenges at the right level to players so they can master.
Mm-hmm. So some places might be more difficult than others.
Yeah.
And resource management. This could potentially be a good angle if you are playing on the city side and on the policing side. How do you manage your resources? How do you put the right people in the right place? But folks, this is something we innately actually enjoy doing, that balancing act of a little bit of it here, move it to there, and games do this very, very well.
And auction, I'm sure everyone's played the eBay game.
Yeah. Absolutely. So any way of buying and selling items and sharing that, it's again something that places like eBay use very well, and arguably eBay is a game. I know I feel like it's a game when somebody gets in at a few seconds to go and buys that Totoro top that I've been wanting all these years, and it makes me absolutely furious, and I'm sure they're laughing all the way. So it's certainly a game to some degree.
And capture is basically capturing opponents' resources. So it's a fun thing. We haven't seen it in gamification yet.
Yeah, we have seen it over the last few days. 800 and so many captured. We'll see how that goes out. But with gaming mechanisms, there are a few different types, and we've kind of bundled them all together. But it's important to understand that there are different kinds of types of mechanisms. There are game mechanisms around behavior and the way that you do things, and they drive solely on your kind of how you are doing something. There are progression ones, things like levels and points, where it just shows you how far you've got down something. And there are feedback mechanisms which are coming back to you with more information. And really, to be successful and to have good gameplay, you need to bring in a little bit of all of those, and to make sure that there are some behavioral mechanisms, some progression mechanisms, and there's feedback. Now, Richard Garriott says gameplay should always be fun, otherwise your players won't continue the experience. I completely disagree. I think gameplay should always elicit an emotional response, and a heightened emotional response is better than nothing. So you can feel anguish, you can feel frustration, you can feel pain, you can feel elation, you can feel absolutely mesmerized. It's not just fun, it's much, much bigger than fun. And I think the key thing is to tap into those underlying human emotions and to magnify them, to use the game as a leverage to make it more interesting. Not just fun, it's much more than that. So, which game mechanisms are we going to use? Well, as you remember, we had instant gratification and free as the core motivations of playing the game, with territory control being the winning method. Now, I'm going to suggest one that we didn't see here, which is epic choice. Epic choice is basically, are you a knight, or are you a paladin, or are you a wizard? In this case, are you a rioter, or are you with the peace-loving public? So that's your epic choice, and that can completely redefine the game and how you see it and how you feel about it. I'm going to suggest that we use epic choice as a mechanism. I think we could potentially use something like difficulty, where it becomes increasingly more difficult to either control the rabble or to be the rabble that are rioting. And just to another one, which is luck, good fortune and bad fortune. I'm going to put those to one side, and perhaps just to bow down to the worlds of gamification, let's have points. So you get extra points for everything that you do, for every place that you save, or for every place that you destroy, depending on your epic choice of which direction you decided to go to. But so far, we've only had some game mechanisms, some hows, some whys, but then what about everybody else? What about bringing it all together? And in your pack, you've got some of these green cards, and these green cards are the social game mechanics. These are ways to engage with other people in this context. So,
social status. There's an example from Clout where it basically takes all your like influence around networks and gives you a sort of status, like on Facebook and also Foursquare. Some people are mayors in the room, probably. That's a social status.
Mm-hmm. And it's an identity irrespective to others' identity within that platform. Leaderboards, we see them everywhere, and I'm not going to labour them just to say that they're an underlying kind of competitive element of showing exactly where you sit within the rest of your peer group and how you can beat them.
And achievement is the challenge for players to complete, resulting in social recognition as well as personal fulfillment. There's an example. The President of the United States, he's got the achievement.
Yep, absolutely. And customization, this is a way of saying I am different, I am an individual, although I must admit I am the same. But it's a very important part of, again, displaying who we are to others, and that the more customization that I have, the better it is in some ways. In that way I can really stand out in the crowd and make my mark.
And communal collaboration is where players get together to achieve a goal. In Facebook or Foursquare, like Foursquare now have teams, so you can all check in at one place and to get the badge or the reward.
I think communal collaboration is a good one for the scenario we picked, again on both sides. As you can see, most of these will apply to absolutely anything. It's a case of deciding which ones it is that you want to, and then focusing and creating the game around that.
And social points are basically what players award other players. So you have points, which the system rewards to a player, but social points is what another player would reward to another player. Mm-hmm. So like YouTube, for instance, where you have the like buttons on the comments, that's me rewarding another player for saying that was a good comment or that was an awful comment.
Gifting is an inbuilt thing. We all have it. We want to give, we want to receive. It's a pleasure to receive, it's a pleasure to give. It's an innate thing. Chimps do it, monkeys do it, we do it. It's a good way to create a bond between two people, to give them a gift of something. Money.
And currency is the monetary units. I'm sure everyone's played or heard of Farmville. It uses the virtual currency, but yet it also uses the monetary value of real-world money.
Yeah. Which kind of leads nicely into virtual goods, where an entry in a database is worth $100,000, and it cost me nothing to produce, and has almost 99% profit on that. Virtual goods are everywhere within the social game space, and there's something very good gaming mechanism to make things social. Well, which ones are we going to use for our game? Looking through the green cards, I think it's going to be hard to pick just a couple, but I'm going to suggest that we use communal collaboration, and another way would be potentially a leaderboard, which would show how well different cities have done or different areas have done, so we could bring that kind of team play together, as well as the individuals. We could also look at the collective. So we bring it all together. And folks, I know the topic wasn't as lighthearted as it could have been, but we could have picked organising funerals. So we're safe from that. This is a game where to win, the reason for you playing is to get stuff for free, or have the instant gratification that you desired. The aims with which you win it is to control territory. The mechanisms with which you play it are through points, a bit of luck, some difficulty involved, and there's some epic choices at the beginning which really define which side of the fence that you sit on. And you show the world and the rest of the players how well you're doing through a leaderboard and through your collaborative communication. There you go, one of 100 million ideas of how to gamify riots. So we've missed out quite a few, but that's one. Just at this point, just to kind of let you know again, tomorrow afternoon we'll be doing some game design sessions where we can show you how to play this card game. The instructions are in there. We didn't quite do it the way we're supposed to. We broke the rules, but guys, we're on stage and there's 100 of you, 100 more of you, and so we just needed to be a little bit flexible. But if we'd followed it, we can create many other games. you know, it's not quite man and wife, but you are now play designers. And a play designer is slightly different to a game designer, in that anything can be made playful, but not necessarily everything that's playful is a game. And so we proclaim you play designers using this pack. And if you'd like to know more, please bug us. Just a few words of warning. You know you're making soup, and you go, yes, it's not quite right, I'll just add a bit of salt. You know, if you are making that soup and you taste it and you go, you know, just, it's horrible soup, don't add salt to it. It's not going to make it better. If your process sucks, if it's really painful, and I would argue funerals are incredibly painful, don't just add salt to it. Don't just try and gamify it. It sucks. Leave it alone. Do something else. So, word of warning, not everything can be gamified. It ain't just about adding salt.
It's all about understanding human motivation.
And we've touched on a few of these. It's very hard to kind of try and condense it all. But really, think about, how do I fulfill these intrinsic human desires? Not how do I add badges to what I'm doing, but how do I bring out acceptance? How do I elicit curiosity? How do I create an honor system? How would I show power? And when it comes to creating that social space of people interacting with each other, think about, how do they express their personal identity? Not how do I put a loading bar or so many percentage of my profile filled. How do I bring out status and self-esteem? How do I create a reassurance and a value of what's being grown? So please start there. Because gamification, honestly, is the science, the psychology of persuasion. Essentially, we're doing stuff because it wasn't that much fun in the first place, but we're trying to spice it up. Otherwise, if it was great fun, we would have done it anyway, right? It is psychology, and this machine is what, by and large, the gamification folk are telling you how it works, in that your website, your content, your brand and service goes in at one end. We stick in a few motivators of identity, status, mastery, and achievement. We socialize it. We add some gaming mechanisms like points, levels, and badges, and rewards, and virtual goods. Add a bit of analytics to it, bit of social metrics, and voila, an engaging experience that gets results. No. It doesn't quite work like that, although there are a few elements in there that obviously do work. But the key thing is to understand how you're making your players feel, how you're making them feel toward each other and between each other, and and if you understand that, perhaps you can use some of this machine.
And just to, do you want to go back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to touch on what we think as gamification is. It's 10% game design, 90% psychology. It's basically using gaming mechanisms for the psychology to happen.
Yeah. And that's me. And I'm sure now you're in the matrix. You may have some questions. We might have a few minutes for questions. Yes, please.
You mentioned, it was one of the things I thought would be great, thank you very much, was you mentioned that we deviated from your rules here in this session, which I'm guessing is kind of emergent play.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of led me to the question, where do you think emergent play has a space in gamification? Because I think that's something that might be very, very difficult to control, and I wondered what you guys thought of the issue.
Should I say this?
Yeah, okay.
It's a great question. Cheats are what makes a game, and if you can build in mechanisms for people to cheat, if you can build in mechanisms for people to be able to create their own meaning from what's happening, essentially that's what we're talking about, creating your own meaning, whether you're breaking the rules or not. Some platforms are very rigid, others allow you to deviate. And I think let's take a very simple game, how many friends I have on Facebook. there are different ways to play that game. And if I'm obsessed with that number, there are different ways that I could amass that number, and different ways of what that would mean and what I would be broadcasting to others when I do get my 8th friend in the end. So I think emergent play is difficult to do without leaving some gaps within the platform. And also some of it will just happen entirely within the player space and the way that they think about the game and what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Do you think that, I mean, that works very well within the kind of game, the 10% of game design that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've talked about the other 90% being psychology, but it's also about marketing, and I'm just wondering where do you think the emergent gameplay might fit within the marketing strategy of gamification?
Okay. I think we're in early days, really, in terms of, well, marketing, again, I would say is psychology. You know, it's persuasion. It's the art of persuasiveness. And so how you perceive a brand, how you perceive an identity of something, and how you express that identity. Now, gamification is almost a brand new way for brands to start to have an interaction with their audience, with their buyers. And that's a really important thing to understand, is that when social media came out, everyone thought, oh, well, I need to just put this on Facebook and have a Twitter account for my fridge. But actually, somebody needs to take care of that. There's more to it than just that. So the conversation grew, and the space for conversation grew. And I think this is literally the next iteration and a new way, and potentially could be quite dangerous for brands to engage, for every brand to engage in gaming.